Good morning, Executive Director, members of the Commission. I'd also like to thank the members of the public who came today. Obviously, coming during the workday is not easy, so thank you for the opportunity to engage in this administrative process with everybody who's here. When Act 55 was passed, concerns were raised thereafter, and there were promises made by a number of the key legislators in support of this bill who said, don't worry, the concerns about environmental protection, cultural resources, and public process will be taken care of through the administrative rules. So that's why we participated through the administrative rule process with a fairly high level of engagement. We submitted comments to Mr. Haraguchi during the first draft. We submitted comments to you when it actually went out for circulation. We have taken the time to talk to some individual commissioners and suggest rules. And it's been frustrating in that, A, there hasn't been a lot of back and forth on that. B, most of those proposals, which are relatively modest, they're taken from other laws that are designed to ensure that environmental resources are protected. It doesn't say you can't do projects, it simply says projects are going to have significant adverse impact, will not be allowed to go forward unless you mitigate it. And those revisions haven't been included. If anything, the rules are going in the opposite direction. And it's obvious they're being written by somebody who wants to protect the Public Land Commission's discretion to be able to approve projects. So if you want to approve a project that destroys 1,000 acres of Okia forest, you can. If you want to do a project that destroys a beach, you can. Build a hotel in areas that most people would say are pristine, shouldn't be, you can. And you're not trying to take those projects off the table, or at least say that we're going to try and mitigate those projects. So, through this process, over 4 attempts to offer suggestions, revisions that haven't been taken up, unfortunately, this body itself is creating the fuel by which the public is saying that we should repeal this law. You're creating the fuel by which people have an opportunity to criticize this process, because really administrative rules were supposed to be the area by which you're able to say, hey, certain environmental and certain cultural protections are being built in. And unfortunately, this draft does not do that. There is very powerful concern by the public. It's very real. And we have a lot of examples of bad government projects that have happened in the past. And so, when you say that we're giving an agency that's exempt from laws that have been created after decades of experience, there's a reasonable basis for this concern. So, looking forward, looking at public access, making sure that public parks are available for certain community areas, so kids growing up will have parks. Making sure that beaches are protected, so much like DOT's project in Maui doesn't occur, where we actually lose a beach forever and ever. Things like making sure that you guys have minimum standards for building codes. Making sure that the projects move forward aren't slum projects, and stating that in the rules. Long-term planning, making sure that we're really trying to do that, and simply saying that we'll let the community participate in the infrastructure conversations really isn't that long-term planning. And I guess I'd also like to point out that the strategic plan, which I think was a good step or a good effort to try to say, hey, we're going to try to recognize certain things, is not binding. It's not, it's not an obligation on you, and it's not an obligation on future Public Land Development Corporation commissioners. So you're making a promise to the public, saying, hey, don't worry, we're not going to do this on important ag land, but there's really nothing binding there. So in some ways, I'd say it's almost an abuse of the public's trust. Now, I don't say that individually of any of you. I say that as the broad statement. If you're going to go out in public and say we're not going to do that, let's at least make it in the rules. Let's at least make sure that there is some commitment to that statement. Finally, again, I have to say these images are almost sort of insulting that are going up on here. I'm involved in some of the DLR's projects to do public-private. We do those already. And some of them are great, some of them aren't. And a lot of times I think it really has to do with the resources DLR has. And that's why I think the Sierra Club's been a strong supporter of trying to find alternative funding mechanisms for DLR, making sure you have the resources to actually do these things adequately. So, to tell the public that we need it to protect Iliaki or to look more like a national park, I think is really, it's not being candid, it's not being fair. And if that's really what you intended, I'd suggest revise the rules to say that these are the types of projects that we do only. We're going to take off those destruction of pristine forests. We're going to take protection of beaches seriously, the Coastal Zone Management Act, etc. And they commit to that. And that's the way you build trust. That's the way you build the public support for these types of projects. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.